The black phone on the security desk rang 3 times before Dave Miller picked it up. In 15 years at Reagan National, that line had never rung more than once. Terminal security. Miller speaking, he said, eyes sweeping the morning crowd. Code verification Sierra 7 Delta, came a clipped voice. Dave froze. Sierra 7. Delta meant presidential arrival protocol, but with no advance notice. His heart rate spiked. Verification confirmed, Dave asked quickly. Time frame? Immediate. Stand down. Maintain normal operations. The line went dead. A presidential visit without the standard 12-hour prep? No security sweep, no advance team? It had never happened before. Tina Rodriguez, his younger but sharp partner, glanced over. Everything okay? Dave shook his head. Got a Sierra 7 Delta. Her eyebrows shot up. Presidential, but nothing set up. Apparently it's happening now. The terminal buzzed with its usual weekday chaos. Business travelers clutching coffee, kids tugging parents, phones glued to faces. Nothing suggested the most protected man in America was about to walk in. Then Dave noticed the shift, a ripple in the crowd near the east entrance. Passengers' heads turned, then quickly looked away. 3 o'clock by United check-in, he muttered. Tina looked, then froze. Is that? It was. The unmistakable figure, swept back hair, navy suit, long red tie, walking casually through the public terminal like any ordinary traveler. No Secret Service phalanx, no perimeter, just one young aide clutching a leather portfolio. This can't be right, Dave muttered, moving closer. In 15 years he'd seen presidents pass through Reagan, but never unprotected. Protocols were strict, advance teams, multiple layers, counter-snipers, exit routes. Today, nothing, the aide whispered into a hidden device. Confirm. Sir, 3 minutes, understood. The president smiled and nodded at families snapping photos. Passengers gawked, staff whispered. A group of baggage handlers by the service entrance noticed too, their surprise turning to open mockery. Hey, Mr. President, forget something, one called out with a smirk. Thought you guys never went anywhere without an army. Another added, sparking laughter. Dave's jaw clenched. Professional or not, mocking the president in public was dangerous. He cut toward them to shut it down. Looks like somebody missed their motorcade, a handler shouted. Want us to call you an Uber, sir? The laughter spread. Phones came out. Travelers recorded. The situation was unraveling. Chaos and unpredictability. The very things security protocols were built to avoid. Then, movement outside. Through the terminal windows, Dave spotted them. 3 black Chevrolet Suburbans, government plates, moving fast. No lights, no sirens, just precision driving. They screeched to a stop at the curb in perfect formation. Doors flew open before the vehicles fully halted. Everybody back, Dave shouted, his hand moving to his sidearm out of instinct. The real Secret Service had arrived. He carried only a radio and pepper spray, the baggage. Handlers' laughter died the moment Dave's commanding voice cut through the air. They turned toward him, not yet seeing what he had already seen. Through the terminal's glass doors burst the unmistakable presence of the Secret Service. 8 agents in dark suits, earpieces and tactical sunglasses. They moved like a single unit, precision honed by thousands of hours of drills and real-world action. In seconds, they spread through the terminal, flowing around obstacles, securing a perimeter around their principal, the president. 2 more agents appeared as if from nowhere, guiding the president smoothly toward the exit. Terminal secure. Put us in sight. All units converge, one agent said calmly into his wrist mic. The atmosphere flipped in an instant. Where there had been laughter, now silence reigned. The baggage handlers froze, color draining from their faces as reality sank in. 3 more agents pushed through the doors, trailed by 2 uniformed officers from the Diplomatic Security Service. In under 15 seconds, the president was fully enveloped in a protective bubble, moving swiftly toward waiting vehicles. Dave stood rooted, mind racing. This wasn't a lapse in security. This was a response, but to what? A tall female agent, close-cropped hair and piercing eyes, broke from formation and approached the handlers. Her face was unreadable, but her eyes carried weight. Badge numbers, she ordered, voice flat. The handlers fumbled with their IDs, reading them off one by one. She logged each without comment. Then her eyes shifted to Dave, Security Officer Miller, Terminal Division. Badge 45-723. She studied him for a long moment. You were approaching this group? Yes, ma'am. Their behavior was unprofessional. I intended to intervene. A subtle nod. Stay available, Officer Miller. She slipped back into formation. Dave watched as the president was ushered outside. Just before entering the SUV, the president glanced back, eyes locking with Dave's for a fleeting second. Dave could have sworn he saw the faintest smile. Then it was gone, replaced by the efficient choreography of departure. The transfer from terminal to SUV lasted less than 3 seconds. The motorcade rolled away, leaving behind stunned passengers and shaken staff. Dave's radio crackled. All security, resume standard protocol. Supervisor meeting in 20 minutes. The silence broke. Passengers compared shaky phone recordings. TSA agents tried to restore order, and the baggage handlers huddled together, pale and shaken. Tina appeared at Dave's side. Holy shit. What just happened? Dave shook his head, still processing. I don't know, but it was planned. Planned? Having the president walk through a public terminal with no visible protection? Letting those guys mock him? It doesn't make sense, Dave admitted. Unless... He stopped, thinking about the exact timing, the sudden appearance of agents, the seamless extraction. Nothing. Let's get to that meeting. At the security office, his mind churned. In 15 years at Reagan National, he'd seen presidential security countless times. Every step rehearsed, every move precise. Nothing left to chance, so what had he just witnessed? A breach, a change in protocol, or something else? The baggage handlers had been a distraction. While all eyes focused on them, the president had been quietly and efficiently extracted. Dave realized he hadn't seen a failure. He'd seen a textbook maneuver disguised as a response. The real question, why? Interview room 3 sat in the secure section of the terminal, reserved for passengers flagged by TSA. Dave felt a flicker of unease as he approached, wondering if his questions to Gina had gone too far. Inside, he found himself face to face with the female Secret Service agent from that morning's incident. Up close, she looked younger than he'd guessed, mid-30s, but carried herself with the authority of someone used to high-pressure situations. Officer Miller, she said, motioning to the chair opposite. I'm Special Agent Rebecca Connor. Thank you for coming. Of course, Dave replied, sitting down. The room suddenly felt too small. I'd like to discuss what you observed this morning, she said, opening a slim laptop. Let's start with the Sierra 7 Delta notification. Dave described everything. The strange phone call, the president's movement through the terminal, the baggage handler's behavior, the sudden arrival of the Secret Service. Agent Connor listened in silence, typing brief notes. When he finished, she closed the laptop and studied him with unsettling intensity. You approached the baggage handlers, she said. Why? They were drawing attention to the president. In my experience, security protocols are designed to prevent that. And the president walking through a public terminal with almost no visible detail. Did you find that unusual? In 15 years, I've never seen anything like it, Dave admitted. Yes, it was unprecedented. Yet you didn't radio for backup or raise an alarm. I was instructed to maintain normal operations. The Sierra 7 Delta alert said to stand down regular protocol. She nodded as if confirming something. Are you familiar with the concept of security through obscurity? Generally, yes. Protecting something by keeping it hidden, rather than relying on obvious barriers. In executive protection, we sometimes use the same idea. The safest movement can be the one that doesn't look safe at all. Dave leaned forward. So the president really was moved through the terminal with minimal visible protection. Why risk it? I didn't say that, Connor corrected. I said the safest movement may not look like it. There's a difference. Dave thought of the SUV's perfect timing, the sudden protective bubble around the president. It hadn't been a reaction. It had been planned. The whole thing was staged, he said aloud. For the first time, Connor's professional mask slipped. Dave caught the faintest glimmer of approval. What I'm about to tell you is classified, Officer Miller, she said. It stays in this room. This morning's operation was a modified extraction protocol. Timing constraints made standard procedures impossible. So you created a diversion, Dave said, the puzzle clicking into place. The appearance of a lapse while the real extraction unfolded. The baggage handlers weren't part of the plan, she clarified. Their behavior was coincidence. But yes, the visible movement followed by a precise extraction was intentional, and the president was never unprotected. He had 3 layers of security at all times, just not in a way most people would recognize. Dave pictured the crowd with phones raised, the handlers jeering, the SUVs waiting. No one had noticed the plainclothes agents, the counter-snipers, the advanced teams disguised as travelers. Agent Connor didn't confirm or deny. Instead, she slid a folder across the table. Inside was a business card bearing the DHS seal. "Your response today showed good judgment," she said. "Situational awareness. That's something we value." Dave lifted the card. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm opening a conversation," she said. "Executive protection requires training, but identifying candidates is part of my role." "Why me?" "I didn't do anything special. You recognized an anomaly. You acted without drawing more attention. And when told to stand down, you balanced the order against emerging risks. That's not common." She stood, signaling the meeting was over. "One last question," Dave said as he rose. Before entering the SUV, the president looked back. He smiled at me. "Why?" Connor's expression stayed neutral. I couldn't speculate, but her tone made him wonder if the president had been more aware of the staging than anyone realized. "If you're interested," she added, nodding at the card. "That number is my direct line. Call within 72 hours. As Dave left, his thoughts spun. What he'd seen wasn't a lapse, it was a flawless illusion of vulnerability. The baggage handler's mockery had been a distraction, folded seamlessly into the operation. And now he had a potential career opportunity he'd never imagined. Back in the main terminal, life had returned to normal. Passengers rushing to gates, announcements echoing, security lines moving. No one would ever know what had really happened. Dave slipped the card into his pocket and walked out. For 15 years he'd watched from the outside. Now he'd glimpsed the machinery behind the curtain, and it was far more complex than he'd ever imagined. Tomorrow would bring more questions, maybe a life-changing decision. But as the afternoon light faded, one truth was clear. The black SUVs, the sudden flood of agents, the extraction. It hadn't been a reaction to danger. It had been the final act in a perfectly choreographed operation. Security at its most powerful was never what it looked like, and Dave had just been invited into that world.